Hello, I'm Charles Kovess. Welcome to this week's episode of the Charles Kovess Show. This is episode 201 after the celebrations surrounding episode 200 where I was wearing my King Charles crown. I welcome you whether you're watching on Rumble or YouTube or listening via podcast on one of the many platforms. I will discuss 2 or 3 current local and global challenging issues that impact on us and then explore how the self-awareness and passion principles can be used by you to effectively and elegantly handle these challenges. I will also share resources that will help you in handling these issues. The show notes give you links to the foundational principles of the show and further details about my background and my websites where you can find my books, my passion speeches and programs, including the Self-Awareness and Passion Quest details, which is a one-on-one executive coaching program, and many free resources. So let's go with this week's big impact issues and how to handle them using the self-awareness and passion principles. Firstly, wind turbines. They're in the news everywhere you look in Australia and elsewhere. These huge monstrosities on the landscape. When you look at these monstrosities and how much concrete needs to be poured for the foundations, the size of the towers, the size of the turbine blades, the energy that has gone into making all of this paraphernalia, and you read the science related to the net carbon effect of these monstrosities as detailed by Ian Plimer in his wonderful book Green Murder, you realise that these wind turbines are a total fraud. They do not help us get to net zero. I don't say we should get to net zero. I think that's a fraud. But these turbines are making a huge impact on the landscape, a huge impact on agricultural land. And on top of that, the promoters of selling these wind turbines are getting subsidies from the governments of your country. In Australia, they get a subsidy. So what happens with these wind turbines is that the farmers are approached, can we put a wind turbine on your property? We will pay you an annual rental fee. It costs huge amounts of money to make the turbines, install them. The farmer gets an annual lease fee. It's pretty attractive. If a farmer doesn't give a rat's about how his property looks and these turbines, he might say, yes, I need the income. It might keep him in survival mode. However, there are many legal problems attached to this lease. The first one is it doesn't matter what these companies promise under the contract, they will go broke. That's my proposition to you because they need government subsidies to make this work. Then 5-10 years down the track, whoever has leased the land to them won't be able to find them. What's going to happen is that the fraud of these turbines allegedly generating electricity to get to net zero will be shown to be a fraud, and so the whole scheme will collapse in a heap. The subsidies will disappear because governments will stop paying it when more and more people awaken to the fraud, and the farmers will then be left with these large turbines. Now, these turbines can burst into flame, but more importantly, they can deteriorate and not work, and then there'll be no one to repair them. Then they will have to be removed. Perhaps the farmer doesn't care. He says, I don't care. It's a small part of my property. But whatever agreements are reached as to removal of these, you cannot rely on these being removed according to any lease agreement. The companies that are signing these agreements will not be around because I promise you the fraud of these wind turbines in generating or achieving net zero will not be achieved. The subsidies will disappear. The turbines will sit there on the properties. Then what might happen is a government down the track will say, All the farmers who had these turbines now have to remove them. We don't want these. The people might say, we don't want this blight on our landscape. The same argument applies to solar panels that are now being put on thousands of hectares, millions of hectares all around the world. You watch, these things don't last forever. And so the government will come in later down the track and force farmers to remove these turbines because the people will demand it. Who is going to pay? We say the government. Well, where does the government get its money from? It gets the money from you. So this whole scheme is about taking taxpayer money from the whole mass of a population and giving it to wind turbine companies that are being subsidized by taxpayer money. So applying the self-awareness and passion principles to this, what I'm sharing with you is the truth. What is the truth? And when you see the truth, then you can make a decision on how you feel about this. Don't get sucked into this idea that net zero is going to be good for your health. It will not be. There's another issue on these wind turbines that applies to the second topic I'm going to talk about, which is 5G towers. That issue is one of safety certificates. Now, these 5G towers that have have appeared all around the countryside in Australia and many countries, including China and Wuhan in particular. These 5G towers are alleged to be good for our phone reception. I now have information, I'm sure some of you do, that is a lie. 4G in terms of your telephone is perfectly adequate. The 5G towers are weapons. They have enormous capability to cause harm. There are safety certificates attached to these 5G towers, and most of them have been installed by your local municipality contrary to law, and they are weapons, and you have a right of self-defence. Mark Steele at saveusnow.org in the UK has shown this to be the case. The safety analyses of these 5G towers are non-existent, and they have enormous power capability that can be dangerous to you. So in the UK, there are many people who are taking steps to defend themselves against the harms of these 5G towers, including, so the electromagnetic radiation, the frequencies that come from these towers impact on your thinking. This is a health issue for you. I'm concerned about your health, just like the wind turbines are a health issue. They're sold to you as great for your health. No, they're not. Now, coming back to the 5G towers, these 5G towers in the UK particularly have safety certificates attached to them. And the great work of Gary Waterman has shown that the safety certificates given by the companies are, by fraudulent companies, by non-existent companies, by forged companies under Companies House in the UK that was established in 1844. So these 5G towers that you see popping up, what I urge you to do is to have a look and take a photo of the safety certificate if you can get close enough. You look at the wiring of these things. These are far more than just telecommunications towers. The question of who pays when the harm to you has been shown, who's going to pay for the damage to your health, that's the big question. If these safety certificates are given by forged companies, by fraudulent companies, by companies that have gone into liquidation, as I say, which this also applies to the wind turbines, you have no redress. What do you do about that in your life? Well, that's a question. I want you to start taking photographs of all of the 5G towers around your property, and you can start measuring the electromagnetic frequencies that are hitting you in your home. You can start to become more self-aware of how your thinking has been impacted by these electromagnetic frequencies and radiations. I've done shows on this in the past, but your awareness around your health, you say, why am I tired? Why can't I think properly? Get a measuring device in your house. If you want details on measuring devices, send me an email to charles@covest.com. I'll happily share the information that I have from Mark Steele in the UK. My third item today is the matter of your health, and I want to talk about passing wind and the quality of your farts. And it relates to your whole elimination process. You need to fart. And I'm being a little bit playful here just to grab your attention. But I learned back in 1965 when I went to my first naturopath, Lawrence Armstrong, a genius. I learned from him the number one cause of dis-ease, of all illness, the biggest cause of your poor health relates to passing wind, and the number one cause of health problems is constipation. Constipation. We are open to the universe. We have 7 orifices, all of the air that we breathe, everything we put into our mouths, the whole universe comes through us and then gets eliminated. If you don't eliminate properly, you will pay a health price. Constipation is the number one cause of ill health, and so you need to avoid constipation. You need to pass wind properly, you need to eliminate properly, and I want you to think about how good your elimination process is. Now, the number one cause of constipation is dehydration. So there's another question then, what water do you put in? I recommend that you drink significant quantities of water. I drink 2 litres of water a day, so does Julie. But be careful about what water you do put in, because in Australia, the chemicals that are now being put in, including fluoride, into your water mean that you can't safely put water out of a tap into your body. We have high quality silver disinfected water that Julie and I drink. You have to drink a lot of water. Make sure you're not constipated. It is often said you are what you eat. I say it's much more accurate to say you are what you don't eliminate. So in terms of your health, which is, to me, the most important thing, particularly if you've had the jabs, and particularly if you're not in great health, your job is to make this decision. You wake up, if you like. You say, I want to be healthier. Good. Start with your bowel movements and understand that you are what you don't eliminate. Start to picture that in your mind, and you start to go, okay, I better drink more water and I better watch what I put into my mouth. And then thirdly, raise the level of vitamin C that you have. This is such a crucial element in your body's immune system. This issue of constipation also relates to the whole question of bacteria and viruses and how do we get sick. I say to you that the greatest cause of your illness is toxicity, of toxins that we put into our body, of toxic environments that surround us. And I have done a table, I will unpack it in another show, of the impact of toxic poisoning versus flu and cold symptoms and any other symptoms, including C19 symptoms. The correlation of toxicity symptoms and flu symptoms is extraordinary. In other words, this whole question of terrain theory, the germ theory, you don't catch a cold. What's happening when you have the flu, when you have a cold, you are eliminating. That's the whole point. And you think you've caught a bug. We say, I've caught a bug. No, you haven't. Your immune system is not functioning well. You have to eliminate. And the elimination process includes headaches, includes fever, high temperature, coughing, diarrhea. That's how it works. So have a rethink about how this whole health model works, because Big Pharma wants you to be scared about bugs. It wants you to be scared about the next flu. Don't be. Start looking after your body. All right, that's about it. I want to bring to your attention the TNT radio this weekend. I have 2 interviews over a 2-hour show. I'm interviewing Therese Cameron, who had years working for Big Pharma. She will share some amazing secrets from what goes on inside Big Pharma. And in the second hour, I will be interviewing Peter Koenig from Switzerland, who is an expert on geopolitical issues. My resources for you this week are Ian Plimer's book, Green Murder, and then the latest song by 5 Times August, Brad Skistimus. And I heard it. It was launched. The debut of the song was at Geneva at the demonstrations against the World Health Organization and the UN a couple of weeks ago. And it's called Liars, Cheats and Crooks. And I say we're being lied to about wind turbines. I say we're being lied to about 5G towers. And I say we're being lied to about viruses and germ theory. Your job is to find out what's true for you. And your job is to think about, do you really want to be healthy? I want to provoke you to be healthy. I want to provoke you to be pursuing your passion, because I want to provoke you to live life on your terms to the best of your ability. If you're new to the show, you can check the foundational principles of the show and my background in the show notes. And there are also links to my websites, covest.com and charlescovest.com, where you can find my books, my passion speeches, details of the Self-Awareness and Passion Quest, a one-on-one executive coaching program, and also lots of free resources. Again, thanks for watching or listening. And until next week, may your week be full of passion, challenge, fun, enjoyment, fulfillment, and ever-increasing self-awareness. Have a great week. See you next week. Bye.